This meeting to order at 10 o'clock on this Tuesday, April 25th. I'll read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hadjiwendarung, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any declarations of interest?
Got it.
No? I suggest we skip over the Monroe House discussion today since we have a lot of other things to discuss, so I do not have a declaration of interest either. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please? Moved by Tim, seconded by Eva. Everyone in favor? Then that is carried. Can I have a mover and a seconder on the adoption of the minutes of Tuesday, March 28th, second meeting Tuesday, March 28th, meeting on Thursday, April 6th, and the meeting on Monday, April 10th?
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Ray and seconded by Councillor Tim. Everyone in favor? Then that is carried. All right. First of all, we have a couple of new people in our meeting today. First of all, our new member, Ricardo Socio. Welcome. And it's also wonderful to meet Morgan from the planning department, and also Nick. I'm not sure whether we have met you online before, but from what I understand, you are our new staff liaison.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet you. You may have seen me at a couple of council meetings, but it's nice to meet everybody.
I hear you have a heritage background.
I do, yes. About half of what I do at work is heritage planning, and the other half is a mixture of different types of development planning. So I kind of wear both hats. So okay. I think I bring a lot of good experience and perspective to the committee too.
That's great to hear. Morgan, do you want to say a few things?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, committee members. Nice to meet you. I've had some email correspondence with a number of you so far, so it is nice to kind of put faces to names. So nice to meet you. And I will just sort of introduce myself. I'm the chief planner here in the planning division of the Development Services Department. And so just as a quick update, there has been a vacancy with respect to Megan Burbeck, who was the senior planner, and she was sort of the staff liaison for this committee. And with her departure in mid-April, we've just been looking to staff the committee. And so we do have MHBC. They've been providing a temporary planning service to the city. And so I've reached out to them. And so Nick has graciously offered to be the staff liaison in the interim until we complete our recruiting and onboarding of new staff and have a suitable replacement to serve as the staff liaison going forward. So I think you will find Nick is very resourceful and helpful. He does have some background and specialization in heritage planning. So I think that will be a great resource. And if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to email both Nick and I, and hopefully we can answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks very much. Ricardo, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us why you joined this committee?
My name's Ricardo Socio. I'm a lifelong citizen of Thorold. I was born and raised and educated here, and I just have an interest in our city. Having grown up here, and I would just like to contribute in any way that I can with what I know about our city.
Thanks. Any questions from any members to Ricardo?
No.
No? Okay, then we'll move on with our program today, correspondence. I have been approached by a real estate agent by the name of Cheryl Severance about the Allenberg Church. We'll get back to that later. There was a group, a Christian church actually, that was interested in purchasing the building as their place of worship. The purchase is on hold for the moment, but I have been in correspondence with Cheryl, and I assume if this will go ahead in the future, she will be in contact again. But we'll get back to the Allenberg Church later on. Is there any other correspondence that anybody would needs to mention?
No.
No? Okay. Then we go on to financial. Our declared budget was submitted to council. There was a slight delay. It got stuck in transit somewhere. I understand that the budget was now presented to council. Is that, no, not yet? So do you have any news on that? Sydney?
Through you, Madam Chair, the budget will be presented at the May 2nd council meeting.
Great, thank you very much. Invoices for payment. I have submitted Sarah Kinghead's invoice for the research report on log 25. I sent it to Sydney, but I CC'd you, Morgan. Did you get the invoice?
Through you, Chair. Yes, I did receive the invoice. Thank you. I have set up a meeting this morning that I had with Stephanie Jarvis just to sort of go over sort of the background with respect to the budget. That was something that Megan had emailed me about prior to her departure. So we were just speaking about that, and then we can proceed. So you should be receiving an email from me with respect to that.
Great, thank you very much. Beaver Dam's book sales, I assume there are none. Joe, do you know any of
Yeah,
them?
you're correct. None to report.
Okay. Beaver Dam's church. Linda, do you know any news about the work done on the Beaver Dam's church?
I believe the painting is waiting for the warmer weather. I will have more news next time because the annual general meeting is happening online tomorrow night.
Okay.
Joe might have more. I missed the last meeting, so.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the painting did start on
Oh, okay.
the 10th of April. I actually went in one day and had a look. They were, one gentleman was doing the dome ceiling. A lot of the walls had been done. I do believe quite a bit more has been done. Dave Cowan sent out through his invite for the next Friends meeting, and there were some pictures posted. I'm not too sure if the color scheme, what's being shown in the pictures is exactly what we were looking for. The pictures are showing the columns are white, and I thought there was another color that was being applied. Are you updated on the color scheme at all, Madam Chair?
Yeah, Councillor?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Joe. Yes, it was decided that the columns be painted the white to just mimic some of the early churches that had the white columns from ground floor all the way up. So
static up.
Okay.
Leave and come back in.
Oh, it'll go away.
Linda?
What? Yes?
Were you putting your hand up or?
No,
Okay.
Ray was just telling me how to get rid of this static at the top here. I don't know how to do that. He said leave and come back in. So if Sydney would let me back in, that would be good. I will try that.
Okay,
Okay?
all right. Yeah, if I can just add to that, yes, the off-white Lancaster whitewash was decided on for the walls of the church, but the columns and the gallery up top were decided to be painted an actual white to set them apart from the rest of the color scheme.
Okay, yes, through you, Madam Chair. I just when I went in there, I had all the emails that had gone between the committee and Beaver Dams on the different colors, and I wasn't aware that there was a change made to deal with the galley and the columns. But no, it looked pretty good what I had seen when I went in there. I'm sure they're finished. Something else I can add to the report. There's still fine-tuning the rental contract that the Friends want to have for people that want to use the facility. It relates to deposit being paid and availability, cleanup time, etc. So that's still ongoing with getting the language that's going to be suitable. There is going to be a survey that's scheduled. It was supposed to be for the end of this month, and this is going to relate to the location of the washroom that's being put on the facility. It's likely going to be put in the back corner, but they need to know where the property line is so the church would know their responsibility for what they're covering and what the city would have for their cost obligations. That will come very shortly. Other than that, June 17th is the Strawberry Fest. You can go to the Friends of Beaver Dams Facebook page and get more details on that, pricing, pickup times, etc. And that's it for that report.
Okay, great.
All right.
All right. Then let's move on to the installation of history plaques that was put on hold until warmer weather. We're talking both the Stone Store, or 11 Front Street South, and the Dobie House. 11 Front Street South is presently being worked on, so it makes sense to delay the installation of the history plaque until that work is finished. With regards to the Dobie House, does it make sense to do these two buildings at the same time? Will that make a difference in encroaching on staff time to have these plaques installed, or does that not matter? Any idea? Morgan, would you have any idea how? Oh, Joe, please.
Through you, Madam Chair. I mean, they're both. They're two different installations when we're dealing with the Stone Store and the Dobie House. Dobie House, we've got to put the stand in.
Yeah.
The Stone Store basically is just the history plaque being applied with an adhesive. So I think we should move forward with the Dobie House. Just go to approach the owners and get their input on where they would like to see the stand located. Generally, the city has just requested that they put a stake in the ground where they want to see it, and then the city comes in and does service locates, and then we'll install the stand and plaque at the same time.
Okay, so would you like me to approach the owners of the Dobie House to get clarity on that, and then we'll move ahead with having that stand installed?
Correct, yes.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, and as I said, the Stone Store will wait until the exterior work is finished. Monroe House will skip for today. The website. I have been in communication with Mark about the photos. Joe and I met with Mark about how to deal with the image banner at the top of each page. The photos that we took, both the photos that Linda took as well as the ones that I took, were not the format that was originally agreed upon. That was calling for a much more wide-angle version of the pictures, but we came up with a solution so that we can use all those photos. Mark had the idea of backing the photos with an old map of Thorold, which he has now done. It looks really good. He has, let me just see, I have some notes. He just had some questions as to some missing photographs. One is the Allenberg oak, which does not exist anymore since it came down in a storm. We would like honorary mention of this oak on the website, so I suggest we use the old photo of the oak. Is that all right with everyone?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then he also doesn't have a photo of the East Side School bell. And the reason why we couldn't take a photo of that is that it was removed from Chestnut Hall, where it has been on display for the last few years. It is in storage right now until a permanent site for it is determined. So we do not have a new photo of the East Side School bell, so I suggest we use
the old one.
use the old one. Yeah, I'll let him know that too. And he also asked about any images or photos on the homepage. Can I get any input on that? What shall we do there?
What did he mean by that?
I'm not sure. Probably a title, image spread, or a photo. I don't know whether he means one of our. Maybe it should be a photo of the Thorold downtown of Front Street. I don't know.
That'd be good. Front Street would be good, or the park.
Yeah, Eva.
Yes, Madam Chair, is it possible for you or a staff person to send us a picture of what is there now, what the homepage looks like
Just
now?
go on and on.
Well, I know, but I want to make sure I would be looking at the right picture.
Okay. Yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Eva. Right now, the homepage doesn't really exist. This all started last year when we took on Mark, and he has established a homepage. And just to clarify on the photos and how they're being laid out, what Mark was looking for was what's called a banner-wide shot on the homepage. But the ratio is 3-to-1, 3 times the width of the height. And what we found when Mark was starting to look at applying the photos and he saw the ratio that they were taken at, if he got a 3-to-1 ratio of a picture of one of our houses, it would probably include our neighbors too, because it would be such a wide angle shot. So this is how we came up with staying with the standard format that had been provided and still using a full banner width on the home page, but applying the map in the background to give that type of an image, something that would add just a little bit of color to the page. If we did talk about another option, that if we were to use the 3-to-1 ratio, he could blur out the side, but we just thought that would be too distracting to try to focus on the photo itself in the center. So it's still really under construction right now. We could probably reach out to Mark and have him do an updated presentation of where he stands with the committee. He's done that before to keep us updated, if that's something that would be preferred for people to just offer some input on where we are with the website reconstruction.
I think what Mark actually meant with the homepage was more like the title page of the website. So, yes, Councillor?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So just a couple of things. I think we can reach out to Mark again, Joe. That's a great suggestion. And just maybe ask him to provide us an example or a couple of examples of what he might be looking for. And then we'll be able to arrange it according to his needs or his suggestions. So that's a suggestion I make there. The other thing I want to say, and Joe spoke about the formatting of the photos, that just simply didn't work for our photos that were taken. I do want to emphasize that Mark was very, very complimentary towards all the photos that were taken both by Linda and Anna. So there was no fault in the photography. He was more than overly complimentary towards the quality and the nice layout of the shots. So it's really wonderful that we're going to be able to use those photographs after all. So, thank you.
Eva?
Madam Chair, to the councillor, I very much appreciate what you've said, Tim, asking Mark to basically draft up perhaps 1 or 2 examples of what he's thinking of and sending those out to everyone for comment.
Of the homepage, you mean?
Of the homepage, correct.
Great, yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I will do that. There were 2 other issues that Mark brought up. One was the committee member list, which of course has changed, so he asked for an update on that. I will give him that. And the other thing that he mentioned was a gift shop, and he asks, are these products still available? This sort of falls into a time before my time at this committee. Joe, can you...
Madam Chair?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay, Ray, yes.
Yes, there was a time when we were talking about putting a couple of other items up for sale and wondering how we would be able to do that with the homepage or with the website. And we didn't do any further discussion until we were getting to this stage. And that was the original intent, because we needed to follow up on things like any publications that we may own that we wanted to sell, that sort of thing, brochures or whatever. Okay. So that's up in the air. Looks like Joe wants to say something.
Yeah. Joe.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, just to supplement what you're saying, Ray, some of the stuff that is in that shop is available at the Lock 7 Center.
Yeah.
Not all. I think just the tourism related stuff. There used to be postcards. I think Sarah's book is included there. Not everything. I think there was a couple of things that were really related more to what Pam was doing at the time that probably we could reconsider whether they should be there or not.
Councillor.
Through you, Madam Chair. One thing we'll need to pursue is an active discussion with the city to make sure that we're able to put these items up for sale, because as soon as there's money involved, now it becomes a whole different issue. So we should clarify that.
Joe.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. If we've got anything, we're not allowed to raise money for ourselves. The books that we are selling, just as an example, Where the Beavers Built Their Dams, Sarah King's Heads book, those, when they're sold, the money is supposed to go into a Heritage Reserve Fund. And this is money that our committee is allowed to access if we are using it for educational purposes. In other words, we were tapping into the Heritage Reserve Fund to have Sarah's books printed, but then the money goes back into the Heritage Reserve Fund. Having said that, the city, my understanding was, can tap into our Heritage Reserve Fund for uses other than heritage, because it's supposedly their money, but we get to access it for educational purposes. And I'm not too sure what the balance is in it right now. I think Tom Russell was usually keeping track of that, but I'm not too sure where it stands right now, or even if it is still in existence. You should look into that.
Okay. But we should still decide whether this gift shop will be posted online, or whether we go away from that and sell these items only through the Lock 7 Center or the museum.
I would go with the Lock 7 Center.
Yeah. Shall we then say we will not post that on the website, but arrange for the items that we have to be, yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think maybe if we wait just a bit, because we've got that, the invite, what is it, May 11th or so?
Oh, right,
the
yes.
Tourism Committee and BIA and you and I have been invited to go in and just see where this tourism center stands on the inside, because this is important for the Tourism Advisory Committee as well to see what's in there. There's lots of brochures, there's lots of information, and it gives them an opportunity to have some input on how they want to see it operate, along with the Economic Development Officer, because they got to work on their strategies. And this gives us an opportunity to go inside and see what we need to update in terms of making sure heritage is represented inside that viewing center.
Okay. Eva?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Joe, for mentioning that. I was going to let the committee know of that event happening. And I'm wondering, though, in the meantime, if perhaps staff can be looking as to whether there was a council approval for the gift shop idea, and if so, that we are completely aware of what that council approval means. Again, I find we don't know certain things, and I think council approvals are at the heart of this. We'll be talking about that later as well.
Okay. Morgan?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So staff can look into on our end and sort of get back to you with some information. So I will speak with Ken, who's the Manager of Economic Development, and we can follow up with that. We can look at, as you were discussing with respect to sales and the website, we can look into that and any previous council approval for the gift shop. But as well, I'm wondering if you guys have had an opportunity. I know Megan McRae, she's our communication specialist. She had been speaking more recently to me just in brief about the website and sort of working with her sort of in tandem as to what would be going onto that website. And so I can always reach out to her to see if she can provide some information and some dialogue with respect to that website.
Great. So Joe, shall we leave the gift shop item as is for now and decide once we have gone to this meeting at Lock 7 and see whether there's space there where we can perhaps add these items to what is on offer already there? Yes, Joe?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think we'll do the tour, and then we'll wait for Morgan to get back to us on what she can find out, and then we're pretty well informed from both ends of the issue, and then we can bring that back to this committee at the next meeting and discuss how we want to proceed. I don't think there's there's no priority to have it done right away.
Okay.
There's a lot of growing pains going on right now with committees that are just trying to get their footings.
All right. Okay. Any other comments with regards to the website? Wynne?
Through you, Madam Chair. Just from my understanding, what's our hesitation with having a sales side on the website? Is it like the fees associated with getting that set up, or the logistics around managing it once it's implemented? Or what's our issue?
I think it might be partially that there aren't all that many items that we do have for sale, and maybe there will be in the future, but it's basically a question on whether it makes sense to have a separate sales platform apart from a center like the Lock 7 center.
Sure.
Ray?
Initially, we were wondering if the office would be willing to take payment and then put anything that belonged in our file, in the file. And that disappeared as soon as some people moved for other positions elsewhere.
Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Ray. My understanding is a few years ago that concept was put forward, and I think the city wanted to stay away from conducting retail business, so to speak. Maybe it can be reapproached again, because there is, there's all of these ideas to try to make the tourism center more attractive to the visitors. So I think they have to step up and offer more than just information. If there's goods to be sold, I think the city has to realize that it's their responsibility in their facility to set up electronic payment transactions, cash payment transactions. There's a lot that goes along with that I think the city has to revisit, so to speak.
You're correct there, Joe. They really did start to backpedal.
Yeah.
When I first brought it up to them, and then they kind of mellowed a little bit, and then everybody went to different directions, and it just got dropped.
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay, shall we move on to the Morgan?
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you. Yes, so is this then a motion for staff to look into this matter with respect to coming back with a report in terms of getting into retail to supplement, and if that's the case, having economic development involved? And again, with communications, I'll speak with Megan McRae in order to just confirm sort of what we're putting on the website, et cetera.
Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, to Morgan. I think we're dealing with two committees here then. There's the Tourism Advisory Committee, and then there's the Heritage Committee. So if we move forward with a motion, then we should be expecting the Tourism Advisory Committee to, at their next meeting, do the same thing.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ray?
It may also bring into, if it's a joint type of thing, who is going to man it? Is it going to be part-time staff members that they hire on, or is it going to be volunteers that are going to do it? That's a couple of areas that we need to look at. And that is what the council is going to have to be able to figure out at some point in time.
Any comments? Councillor?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of information that needs to be gathered. So I would like to make the motion to have staff look into all our suggestions. Morgan, your recommendations of tapping into Mark and Megan and bringing back a report to us would be very useful.
And I would second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, all in favor? All right, then that is carried. All right, then next item on the list is the heritage permit. We had been told in our last meeting, Morgan, that the city is looking to hiring a student who might be working on a possible future heritage permit for the city of Thorold. Is that still on the agenda?
Through you, Madam Chair. It isn't something that's come across my desk at this time, but it's definitely something I can look into. So if you do have any particulars surrounding that, if you wouldn't mind emailing that to me, then I can investigate further.
Councillor?
Madam Chair, question please from to Morgan or whoever. What kind of duties was this supposed to be? And was it to be jointly with tourism or just strictly with heritage?
No, this has strictly to do with heritage. It's about a heritage permit for designated buildings. This is something that has been on our desk for many, many years, and so far Thorold still does not have a heritage permit for its protected buildings. Councillor?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. If I could direct this question to you, Nick, as a heritage planner. In the city that you work, do you have a heritage permit? I could imagine that might be a possibility.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, I think you're talking about a form that people fill out when they're applying for a heritage permit to modify a designated building.
No, in fact, I think it's over expanding beyond just that, not just for the present owners, but I think it's also for anyone that might be purchasing a heritage building so that they understand the situation and the designation requirements. We've had a couple of issues where persons have purchased heritage properties and didn't fully understand what was involved with owning a heritage property. And we would like to make sure, I believe that's part of the heritage permit, that it's not only to ensure that heritage properties are protected, but also that people who are investing in heritage properties understand fully the role that they'll be taking on.
Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to supplement what you're talking about, Councillor O'Hare, the heritage permit we were looking at had to do with somebody who had a designated home and they wanted to do renovations or modifications. Then they would have to submit what their plans were, and that would come to us for approval. It's similar to a building permit that cities would have that pertain to just a regular property. Ours would just be slightly different. This is what I think the real question is that's being directed to Nick is something that is a work initiative that a heritage owner wants to do on the house.
Eva? Nick was first, and Eva?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. So I think you're looking for then the form that people would fill out if they're going to do work on a building, but then also maybe there's a communication piece that goes with that so people know when they buy a property. I've seen that before in other municipalities we've worked in where it's, a little brochure about what it means to be designated property and what to do if you want to make changes and things like that. Mm-hmm. He also asked about the forms. There's lots of municipalities that do have forms, and then there are some that don't still. So I have seen a lot of variability. But I'd suggest maybe that's something that I can work with Morgan on, and maybe we can add that to our list of things we look at, is maybe we can start to work on a draft form and a bit of a communication piece that goes with it. I'd be happy to do it.
Okay, great.
That's great. Eva?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. That was very, very helpful, Nick, in what you said. I have been doing a lot of research on heritage permits with municipalities, and there are many, many variations, but there is some wonderful work in existence in the community that I feel it would be helpful if perhaps there was a subcommittee established to look at the whole issue of heritage permits, because it also speaks then, it spells out to those who are thinking about possibly having their properties designated, being able to see the benefits, being able to dispel the myths that they've been hearing anecdotally down the road. I think the heritage permit process and the information that is collected is absolutely critical to establishing the importance of heritage designation in the city of Thorold. So a committee taking a look at that, or we do it as an entire heritage committee.
Thanks, Eva. Drafting something that would give present or future owners guidelines of what is possible, and also, as Eva says, dispel the myths around heritage designation would be a very important step in further conservation of heritage in Thorold. Any other comments on this topic? No? Then downtown facade program, do we have any new applicants? No? Okay, we'll get to the Stone Store who have just received their grant to renovate or to restore their facade in later on in our new business section. Next section, Tourism Advisory Committee. We have a new representative on the Tourism Advisory Committee. Eva, you've sent us some great info about regional tourism organizations and also about the many tourism resources that Niagara, including Thorold, has. Please go ahead, let us know what you experienced at your last meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was a very, very interesting meeting, my first meeting. And one of the questions I raised was to what extent, if any, was the tourism committee involved with the regional tourism organizations? And this opened the door to be able to provide some background information. As I understood, the person who had a little bit of interaction was the general manager for tourism and economic development, but otherwise this was not familiar to the committee. So I have sent you that information. I don't know, Sydney, are you able to quickly upload the tourism RTO page? Okay, if you are able to go to the overview. Okay, so here are the 13 tourism organizations, regional tourism organizations that were established in 2009. So RTO number 2 is Niagara, Canada, and it covers the entire region of Niagara. So I've also sent you the link to Niagara, Canada. So we are all able to establish what kind of work is being done by this regional tourism organization and which municipalities are involved. So just for the record, I have not in detail gone through this website, but I've probably spent 15 minutes taking a look, and I'm not seeing Thorold reflected here. So whether that is something that is of importance to the Heritage Committee, I think should be a discussion point, a further discussion point, especially given all of the heritage assets that Thorold does have and has been dealing with wanting to create greater awareness, if you will, of our heritage assets. So it will attract tourists, so it will advise the community what is going on in terms of our heritage conservation. So the other thing we talked about that I raised was the importance of, from a tourism perspective, there are two components. One being the product development side of things, and the other being the marketing. And what I mean by product development is, for example, let's use the wonderful downtown that has received the significant Heritage Award. So there are two ways of addressing this from a tourism perspective: promoting it very, very rigorously to allow people to come and do a driving tour, but with that, they may not have the interpretation as to how all of this work was done. A second way would be to hire someone, especially for the summer, to provide tours on certain days, walking tours, driving tours, so that the product itself and the process can be made available to those interested in this kind of work. Anyway, I'm happy to be on this committee. And yes, I'm so glad that I did ask that both the chair and the vice chair at a minimum be invited to the Lock 7. Is it Lock 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To take a look at what this facility looks like and what can be done. And I know there is great interest on the part of some of the members to ensure that there is the capacity to have, to allow the community to purchase products. Now, whether that is online or whether that might be through a facility, that decision-making is yet to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Question?
Any questions for Eva? Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Ava, just to touch on what you were referring to about the, like the marketing and the, the walking tours and that. I did point out to you in the discussion that we had prior to you going on to the committee that the Tourism Advisory Committee should reach out to Niagara Segway. He did do a presentation, Guillaume did a presentation a few years ago. I think it was back in my first term on tourism. So this is going back maybe 2017. He operates, like a Segway tour operation. He does tours in Port Dalhousie. He does the Welland Canals Parkway, I think, from Lock 3 up to the flight locks, and that's his limit. When he did his presentation to us, it was really great. He applied to the city, and I'm not clear on why they turned him down, whether it was legal issues pertaining to sidewalk use. I know he got permission to use sidewalks in Port Dalhousie, so I think this is just an issue that has to be brought forward again and get city council on board. He could do what we were talking about was him possibly doing a downtown tour and then doing one through the old section of Thorold, where we've got at least, I'm thinking, 12 to 13 designated properties just in our neighborhood alone, which would provide an ample and probably a quite pleasant tour for him to conduct. That's my suggestion.
Yep. Okay, I would definitely be in favor of that. Let's also keep in mind that Thorold does not only have very rich heritage in its downtown, we also have the best section of the Welland Canal right here. On every level, there are, apart from the natural resources that we have, on every level we have tourism assets here, and they should be used. Yes, Eva?
Yes, Madam Chair, and perhaps to add that maybe our Heritage Advisory Committee does have a role to play in what I have been calling product development, and especially a role that engages our Indigenous community. For each meeting, right, we honor our Indigenous peoples, but we need to start engaging them. And one of the projects I shared with the Tourism Committee was a bus tour that was organized. And again, we had a committee when I was working for Tourism, Culture, Sport. We had a committee that engaged the Six Nations of the Grand River, the Mississaugas of the New Credit, Brantford, Brant County, et cetera, and there were representatives. We came together and said, you know what, the Grand River, which is a Canadian national heritage river, it's not really understood what that means. And so we decided on a bus tour, and we had 2 buses. They were sold out immediately, and the people who were giving, who were basically the presenters, were also on that bus. And we always had the Indigenous perspective as well as the outcome of what was being viewed as we got to certain landmarks. The impact of that tour was phenomenal. So again, I mean, is there something that we can be doing in Thorold, for Thorold, with Thorold representatives, with Indigenous representatives, that can really shout out the richness of the opportunities that exist here?
I think absolutely. Just a second, Joe, I just wanted to quickly refer to the opening of the Indigenous Unity Garden at the Beaver Dams and DQ Crossroads this past weekend. There will be multiple events over the summer of Indigenous teachings about plants and nature that everybody's invited to join. This could be a first step in this direction to open up our rich Indigenous culture to those who are interested. We are also, I'm going to bring that up later too, Sarah has suggested that the entire area be designated as an Indigenous heritage landscape, which I think would be a great step in the direction of celebrating this culture which has existed here for thousands of years before we ever landed on this continent. But what is definitely going to be, could be an immense attraction are these teachings. I can get a schedule from the city when that will be happening. If people want to join in sharing in the richness of this culture and their knowledge about nature and this landscape, that would certainly be a step in the right direction, I think. Yes, Eva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you say where the leadership for this Indigenous Beaver Dam Garden is coming from? I think Michelle Elise Burnett was heading the opening of the garden, and she's very heavily involved in it. And she also told everybody who was present about the teachings that will be happening this summer. But I can certainly approach both Michelle Elise Burnett as well as Sarah. They both will probably be able to give us more information about that. Joe?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, to Ava. You know, in some of the research reports over the past couple of years that Sarah's done, especially when we're dealing with beaver dams, and now we're finding that Beaver Dams Park, maybe we've dropped the ball. There always was, especially with Sarah's reports, when she does a starting point, she doesn't start like 200 years back. She goes like 1,000 years and gets a real history of how we evolved and how we got to where we are today. You know, she is talking about a Beaver Dams area that she feels needs to be recognized. You know, there's the Indigenous Beaver Dams Trail. So we're going to have to reach out to the Indigenous people if it comes to the point where we're going to be designating that as a historically cultural significant area as well. I think maybe there's an opportunity, and this, we're going to be talking about this later on when we talk about the Lot 25, but in her report, you know, I mean, she's basically saying we need to designate the whole park. And you've got the 1813 cairn from the Battle of Beaver Dam site, which recognizes the significant role that the Indigenous people played in that battle. So, I mean, I think this designation that we're going to be dealing with on, if it goes through, it hasn't gone through yet, but I'm being very presumptuous, but it's turning out to be a lot bigger than we thought. We thought we were going to be designating a lock, and now with Sarah's report, it's a way bigger, more significant event that's going to encompass a lot of participants that need to be recognized for where we are today.
Okay, and now we're already at our next business item, which is the Beaver Dams Lock designation. And what you just said, Joe, about the cairn commemorating the participants in the Battle of Beaver Dams, what is actually missing is the participation of the Indigenous warriors that joined the British in fighting this battle. They are commemorated on the commemorative plaque at the actual battlefield site, but not in Beaver Dams Park. And Sarah has made it very clear that it is quite shameful that there is no plaque and that there should be one added. She also suggested that, well, one of the suggestions that she made was we could just copy the plaque at the battlefield site, but she then made a second suggestion, which I actually like very much, and that was to approach Michelle Elise Burnett to find a person who would be suitable to word a plaque commemorating this Indigenous participation in the War of 1812. Sarah has actually already approached Michelle Elise, and she has responded that she would very much like to be supportive of that. I think it should be put to council that we need to honor the significant part that the Indigenous population played in this Battle of Beaver Dams, and not just that, but the entire War of 1812, and in fact the entire history of Canada. So I don't even think this is something to decide for the Heritage Committee. This should be something that should go straight to City Council and be decided by them, and hopefully passed. Any comments? Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, and I think besides City Council, because there's a lot that's being asked to be organized, that we need to get the Community Events Committee involved as well. They are part of establishing, I guess, the agenda for the day. So
Oh, you mean, sorry, you mean for the celebrations on Canada Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have reached out to Marsha. She hasn't responded to me yet, but
Yeah.
I will do so again.
So, because we do need a lot more, I guess if we're going with Sarah's recommendations, we do need a lot more clarification on exactly what we're designating, what the plaque's going to be put on. I mean, we thought it was going to be, Block 25, but with Sarah's recommendations, there's a lot of relics in the park that they don't even have a history plaque. Like the schooner anchor doesn't have a plaque. The JB Stone has a history plaque, but it's in very bad shape. It does need a new stand because it's got one of the original metal ones that's rusting. The Kiefer Gristmill Stone, it has a plaque that's not even in the right spot. It's stuck beside a tree, and it also needs to be replaced. So I think there's a lot of clarification we have to come up with for, Sarah's basically saying that the park needs to be designated, but if we are designating, where are we going? Like what all is involved here?
Well, I think what Sarah mainly suggested was that all the artifacts that are in the park be included in the bylaw. We probably do not have to plaque them at this moment, all of them. We can maybe put plaques whenever we can in the future on the various items, or replace them if they are rusted. For now, we're probably talking the designation of Lock 25 and a plaque on it. But have the bylaw include all the artifacts that are in the park as well. I don't think we have to, for time reasons and organizational reasons and also cost reasons, because plaques cost money, as we know, I don't think we have to do those all on Canada Day. We can designate and plaque the lock, but the designation bylaw, we will ask to include all the artifacts that were taken that originally were at the battle site or elsewhere in Thorold and taken to Beaver Dams Park to be included in the designation bylaw. Yes, Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, then, I mean, obviously, our committee's going to be in favor of moving forward with this designation. And if we're looking at, putting a bronze plaque at Lock 25, we know there's a horrendous lead time on the brass plaque, and we'll never have that in time.
Yeah.
But it was pointed out to me that we could get the history plaque in a reasonable amount of time. So I think what we need to do is reach out to Sarah and get her to provide some wording for that particular history plaque. We can get that to McGee Marking Devices. We can certainly order that, because that's just the history plaque. It's separate from saying we're going to order the bronze plaque because we know we're going to be designating that lock, and we're not, we're doing something that we're not supposed to do. But at least we can get the history plaque ordered so that we've got that in time and have it installed in time for the ceremony.
Yep. And which also brings us to just a second, Ray, to the evaluation of Sarah's report. Has anybody done an evaluation?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And all right, because I would like to today bring a motion to declare, to decide on declaring a notice of intent at the May 2nd council meeting.
So moved.
Okay. You wanted to say something else, Ray?
I do.
Yeah?
But let's deal with what you wish to do now.
Okay. Eva, you wanted to make a comment?
No, I was going to second the motion.
Way to go, Ava.
Okay, do I go from the assumption that everybody evaluated the lock as to be highly deserving of designation?
Yes.
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 Agreed.
Okay,
Yeah.
then can we have a motion to ask, pardon?
Is that carried, Madam Chair?
Okay, everyone in favor? All right, then it's carried. So can I ask you, Councillor, to bring this notice of intent to council next Tuesday?
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. We'll have it prepared and we'll make sure that things are progressing as we wish them to progress.
Okay.
Now, Madam Chair, I have a question.
Just a
Has to do with the model that is just north of the lock that supposedly represents the lock and how it works. The water flow on that is from north to south. And all the watershed going for the old canals was south to north. Is the city going to take and change that or what? Because every time I'm down there and somebody says, "What's this?" and I explain to them, they just go away laughing, thinking we're a bunch of idiots.
Okay, city staff?
Perhaps that could be quietly brought up somewhere.
Okay, so how come it's flowing the wrong way? Any idea? I wasn't even aware it was, but.
It was. It is. I shouldn't say was. It is.
Okay, noted. Eva, you had a comment?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
It's only historically significant.
Yes.
yeah, okay. All right, And can we also make sure that the historic artifacts in the park are included in the bylaw? All right. Okay. Am I forgetting anything about this notice of intent being brought to council? It's important that it's complete. That's it? Okay.
Ava has something.
Eva? Yeah.
Madam Chair, I did have a comment. Would you like us to send you our evaluations to verify if you were ever asked that, yes?
Actually,
This
it
is
would.
high priority?
It's not a high priority, but I would like your evaluations. I think all the evaluations should be kept together, and so that we know, what the average was.
Madam Chair, I was of the understanding that it was a high priority for all of us.
It's a high priority for us to know that everybody evaluated the lock in a way that warrants designation. When you send me your report, that can be today or it can be next week, I'll trust that the evaluation is as it should be. Okay. Heritage inventory list. Eva and
Wayne has a question.
Nick.
There are questions.
Through you, Madam Chair, just to quickly circle back on the notice of intent, are we also bringing forth that report to council and suggesting that council reads the report, or are we just, no? Okay.
Actually, it's the Heritage Committee who reads the report and evaluates the site to be designated. If council wishes to read the report, of course they can, and they can also look at our evaluations. But we advise on the designation.
Okay.
Nick,
Thanks
you
for
had a
clarifying.
comment?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I was just going to ask about the notice of intention to designate, if there's a draft of that was previously prepared, or if that work's been done yet.
No, there wasn't, but I can, is it Eva? Who was?
Well, I would suggest that Sarah, where she makes her recommendations, there is all of the information specifically in there to be able to draft up the intent.
Okay, so she has a summary at the end of her report that has the reasons it designated and why it's significant and things like that.
Perhaps, Madam Chair, perhaps Sydney can send that report to Nick.
Sarah's report? I'm
Yeah.
not sure, Sydney, do you have Sarah's report? I'll send you the report, Nick.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And a draft, yes, Councillor?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I'll be working closely with Matthew on preparing the intent to designate and the both the notice of motion and the motion to designate in the next few days, and making sure that it's ready for our next meeting.
Joe, do you happen to know whether in previous designations, this is the first one that I'll be chairing, the draft that was put before council was done by the chair of the committee? Or is this something that is done by the city?
You mean the intent to designate?
Yeah, the notice of intent to designate, the draft of it.
Done by the chair.
Okay, I will do that draft and send it to you? Okay, all right. Do you want me to send that draft to you as well, Nick?
Yes, I was going to suggest if you'd like us to take a quick look at it once you have a draft done, then we can just make sure formatting and all that kind of stuff is fine and it has all the information it needs to. We could certainly send it off when you have a draft of it ready.
Okay, all right, will do.
Thank you.
All right, any more comments on the Log 25 designation? Then we can move on to our heritage inventory list subcommittee, which is chaired by Eva, and she's joined by Wynne.
Thank you. Okay. Sydney, are you able to upload the report? And a question to Nick. Nick, does this report look familiar to you? The one that's on the screen?
It does, yes. I got it sent to me yesterday, I believe.
Okay, so everyone has a copy of the report. Hold on. Why am I not seeing my screen anymore? Okay, I had some speaking notes, which I'm not seeing anymore. I'm looking at the bottom at my taskbar. Why would that be?
Did they disappear once Sydney started screen sharing?
Yeah, they did.
They're probably just hidden behind another window somewhere then.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Eva, I think it defaults to full screen when the screen's sharing, but if you hit escape, then you should be able to see your other windows and resize it.
I can see mine now. Okay, and good. The map is up. All right. So this is the committee's first report, and I'm going to share very quickly with you what it is we did do. Clearly, the basis of all of our work was the 2016 report of 112 non-designated heritage properties. And originally that list was started in about 1980. And then in 2016, additional properties were likely added, and there were different updates. Again, we needed to look at each one of these properties through the lens of the new cultural heritage values under the More Homes Built Faster Act Bill 23 and the amended Ontario Heritage Act. And as well as considering things like benefits of public and private ownership, property location, and any threat levels as it relates to demolition. The report you received yesterday evening includes these two graphics, this map, as well as the second one we'll be getting to in a bit. One of the things that you need to know is that up until this point, we are unclear as to whether council has ever approved the list of 112 properties. So I'm going to ask Sydney at this point, have you been able to verify whether yes, council did approve this list or whether it is still an outstanding matter? Sydney?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the best of my knowledge, both Matthew and I looked and we weren't able to find anything, so we don't believe council approved the original list.
Okay, well, this is going to make a difference to our decision making, which we'll get to in just a little bit. So if we can go to the next slide, which is basically a great big orbit. It's the second one. And please be aware that, well, you've got the report, that all of the detailed information is contained in appendices. So what this chart is telling us is that starting with the red pie, 14 listings were deleted because perhaps they were demolished. We could not find 2 properties, for example. One property appeared to be a duplication of a second, and 3 designated properties were included. And this probably happened, right, from 1980 to 2016, properties were designated. So they needed to be deleted. So then we carefully assessed the 98 properties plus 2 additional properties that we identified, and those properties are the Beaver Dams DeQ Crossroads as an Indigenous heritage landscape that Sarah was very, very keen on, and the other was the Hendershot building. But again, looking at the cultural values, the change that happened with Bill 23 is we went from 3 themes to 9 criteria. However, the themes did not change. The one deals with design value or physical value, which we've coined aesthetic. The second is historical value and associative value. The third is the contextual value. So, just going on, per the dark and light blue pieces of the pie, Priority 1 properties propose 14 high-level properties for designation, even though it states in the pie 13. The 14th was added yesterday, last evening. Sarah and I were back and forth with Wynn, and 45 Canby was added to the 13 to make it 14. And then, of course, we've got the lower priority 13 properties, all to be designated in the future, time permitting. The meaning of the asterisks are very important. One asterisk says that the property is publicly owned and incorporated, and therefore may stand a likelier chance of being designated. 2 asterisks indicate properties that are privately owned, but whose owners might be amenable to designations for various reasons. And again, that's where the heritage permit as a tool to really dispel. There are so many myths still existing when it comes to heritage designation. We've got to do our best to dispel them and just point out the incredible benefits, including economic. So the very last appendix that is included deals with 6 heritage conservation districts. And the map that was on the screen at the very beginning, when that is opened right up, I mean, it for some of these heritage district designations or centers, it actually shows the clustering of heritage properties. So we have the Old Town of Thorold as one heritage conservation district, Port Robinson another, St. John's, focusing on the schoolhouse. That's just around the corner from me. I'm there all the time. Then the corridor of the first and second Welland Canals, the second Beaver Dams Village along Marlatz Road, and Allenburg from the Cairn to Upper House. Getting to, all right, the next steps. So Sydney, if you can bring it to the next steps. What we consider them to be, we now know Council has, we're not aware that Council has approved the Thorold Heritage Index potential listing. Assuming then that the clerk tells us, no, this has not happened, then Council can do one of 2 things. And here are the 2 options that I am putting forward. A, Council can pass a resolution including a shorter list of properties on the municipal register under Section 27(3) of the Ontario Heritage Act. This would give these properties the 60-day interim protection from demolition, but they could only be on the register for 2 years and would then have to be off the register for the next 5 years, unless they were designated in the meantime. The second option, it can direct staff to prepare heritage designation reports for the short list of properties without including them on the municipal register. This means no 60-day protection, but also no time limits. So what this is saying is, for B, that Council will not be passing a resolution to list the short list. There will be no resolution. So step 3 is to create an updated Thorold Heritage Index of potential listing to April 25. And the 4th, update council by month's end and ask council to advise the Heritage Thorold Committee on any and all decisions on the matter of listing and designation. Are there any questions as it pertains to this presentation or the next steps?
Eva?
Yep,
Oh, Nick has a question.
I'm sorry.
Nick has
You
a
should-
question. I'm just going to let Nick speak first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify, the one option was to not put them on the register, but to move straight to designation. My understanding of the way the New Heritage Act is a property needs to be on the register before you can designate it. So you would want to add the 14 properties to the register, and then from there move them to being designated.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Nick. Nick, I did go over this with the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism, and specifically Andrew Jeans, who was one of the presenters at our last meeting. And he has confirmed that no, that is not the case. There is, it is not necessary to have council pass a resolution to list by July 1st.
Okay, so it's related to the transition then. I got you.
Yeah,
When I was reading through or listening to the St. Catherine's meeting, what the issue, as I understood it, is that yes, the list was approved by council, and so option B is not an option for them.
From what I understood, is that a property that is affected by a prescribed event, like a development or a proposed development or a change of city bylaw coming into effect, a property like that would have to be on the list in order to be designated. For other properties that this does not apply to, from what I understood from the heritage experts from the ministry, it was not strictly necessary. Is that correct, Eva?
That is my understanding. However, is there, perhaps what we need to do is identify a property that has been affected by an event.
Yeah.
So be it the official plan policy, be it the Planning Act, and walk through that. I'd like to walk through that then with someone like Andrew Jeans.
I sort of was under the impression that they want to prevent somebody quickly designating a building in order to prevent an already proposed development. But if there's a house that is in a residential neighborhood and it's not on our list at this point, but we feel it should be designated and the owner is in favor of designation, but there are no changes to the official plan or any developments planned around it, that would not be a problem.
Yeah.
Does that sound as if it could be the case, Nick?
I think that's the case if it's before the July 1st deadline. I think when the new deadline, like after July 1st, my understanding of the changes to the act was that any property that wants to be designated needs to be on the register first. So it must be a factor of it being the transition period. I know Andrew well too. I've met him lots of times at conferences, so I could chat with him too again, just so we make sure it's right, because there's a lot of changes in their stuff that was in place but not in place, and then now it's in place. So I think everyone's trying to figure out what the intent is.
He and I were back and forth last week on this. And the wording that I've shared with you is his wording.
Okay, great.
So, but in terms of going forward, absolutely, everyone needs to feel 100% confident that the decision on, if it is on B, is the correct decision to best serve the needs of the city of Thorold.
Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, so first off, I just want to say thank you to Eva and Wynne. Great work. I mean, it's really nice to see it so clearly laid out. And I just want to say this, as we know, it takes both time and money to designate properties. And we are going to be restricted with with few designations per year, not many. And therefore, we should really think long and hard about this list of potential designations, because if we do then lose the capability of designating them for a 5-year period because we hadn't neither the funds, the time, the interest to get them designated, then we in effect lose those potential properties. So this will take some very hard decision making and research to make sure we're selecting the proper ones, and so that we're protecting the ones that we do want to perhaps designate in the future. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Eva?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. So under option B, taking into consideration all that you have offered, councillor, is it will allow a continuous, without interruption, year after year process of designation of, is it 1, 2, 3 properties per year, without that 5-year silence, if we go with option A. That is my understanding in my discussions with Andrew.
Okay. One of the major issues will be, of course, to get owners to agree to designation. So one of the first steps would be to approach the owners of our priority properties and see which ones would be in favor of moving in that direction. And those obviously should be our very, at the very top of our list. Of your 2 options, I don't mind option B, because a 60-day stay of demolition is a 60-day stay of demolition, no more than that. If it made sense, if that is really true, that any property that is not added to the list and then loses that status after 2 years, if it's not designated, can be further designated afterwards without having this 5-year hiatus put on it. I like that option, but we should maybe confirm one more time, since there does seem to be a slight difference of opinion between yours, Eva, and Nick's. So maybe we can check up on it just to be 100% sure one more time that that is really the case. Maybe you already have, yes, Eva?
Through you, Madam Chair, perhaps I can ask our staff person, Nick, to set up a conference call. My phone doesn't have that capacity, that we have a conference call with Andrew Jeans and speak through this one more time.
I'd be happy to do that.
You mean a conference call with the committee?
With Andrew Jeans?
Yeah. And with all of us, or just the 3 of you?
I I think the three of us would probably, and perhaps I would want Wynn to be there.
Yeah, okay, and then you would be reporting back to us.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome, yeah. All right. Any more questions as to Eva's and Wynn's report?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the Heritage Impact Statement. We have a draft that Wynn provided a few weeks ago, and it's something we would like to bring to council just to make our feelings known about the new McDonald's proposed for the corner of Sullivan and Pine. Have you had a chance to look at Wynn's draft of what is to be brought forward?
And my apologies, I just circulated it to everyone this morning before the meeting, so if you haven't had a chance, that's understandable.
Yeah. It's, I would maybe do one change to this, and that is this one sentence where you say the fast food chain is a ubiquitous symbol of modernity and commercialization. I hate to call a strip mall 1950s, 60s strip mall building as an, I wouldn't describe it as modernity, maybe just as a symbol of homogenization and commercialization. I think it's something that by now is very much stuck in the past, decades in the past. It's a 60s, 70s kind of a concept that doesn't really comply very much with modern planning, especially of a modern downtown. And so I would avoid the term modernity. But other than that, I think this goes very much in the direction that we wanted to go. Also, thanks so much for your points that you give, what makes a good impact statement, what to look out for, and what to avoid. But if I could ask members to maybe read the comments at their leisure, not necessarily now, but and then maybe send me their input via email, would that be okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right, and then we can go from there. Eva?
What's the time frame we should be looking at?
We don't have a strict time frame for that. I mean, if you read it within the next few days and send me your comments, that would be great.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Stone Store. The owners of 11 Front Street South have been granted their restoration grant for the restoration of their facade. And I assume that work is going on schedule on that building. There's probably not much we have to discuss about it right now. I'm sure there will be more to report once work is actually progressing further. Yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, John was going to get back to us when Mark Schultz was available to do a look at the roof structure, given that it's leaky and there is some structural concerns that have to be addressed. So that's probably the next important factor of his restoration project. I know they were doing interior work, but that's not got anything to do with us, really.
Yeah.
But he will update us on that, and then we can get probably a better picture of what his next steps are going to be.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the Stone Store? No, then Allenberg Church. I already mentioned I was approached by Cheryl Severance, who was inquiring for a church community to purchase the church as a place of worship. That is put on hold for now. They felt that the building needed too much work for them to be useful for them at this moment. She then informed me that the present owner is doing some restorations, and the church will then decide whether they want to go ahead with the purchase once that has been done. Now, we do not know who the present owner is. Joe, you were given some info by Sydney, but all you could find was a
Corporate
corporate address.
corporate number.
Yeah. I have just been out to Allenberg on Saturday for some Earth Day cleanup event, and I did see, we met at the community center, and I did see that on the backside of the church there are some major problems with the wooden soffits that are actually falling down. So the building does need work, and it would be nice to see that fixed, and instead of just further falling apart. I will try and approach Cheryl again. As far as I understood, the client is actually, she first approached me as the buyer for this church community, but I was under the impression that her client was also the present owner of the building, and she might be able to give us some info about any restoration work that is planned for the building. I have let her know that the exterior has to be done to historic standards, and that it can't be changed, that it has to be restored, not altered. Yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, there's quite, from what I've learned from the chair of the Allenberg Community Center Committee, he lives in the area, and he is quite familiar with the deterioration that existed in the roof for several years in the corner, I guess, which would be the southeast corner, where you're at the community center, where that soffit is falling down. There was a very large hole in the roof for years. So it's believed that there's going to be a lot of interior damage in that back corner that's probably going to have some effect on the structural integrity inside. But as you saw by walking around the church, the brickwork is in excellent condition.
Yeah. We just have to make sure that whatever work is done in order to fix this is done properly. The wooden soffits are still there, so they can't just be replaced with vinyl or aluminum. It needs to be done right. I don't know whether any of the more long-standing members of the committee remember this, but it was brought to my attention by Cheryl that there were blue stained glass windows in this church at one point, which were changed before the present owner bought it. And from what I understood, he has had that, or they have had that property since about 2010. The church was designated in 2002. If these windows were replaced within that time frame, then that is obviously something that should never have happened. Do any of you know anything about that? Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think the only thing we can do is probably reference the original research report on the building.
Yeah.
The pictures of the windows as they were would be there, and whether the city has any legal action they can take against the previous owner to retrieve them. Who knows? But if we can look at the report and then see what we're looking at, because it is shameful that the windows that did get stuck in happened with nobody alerting the city or Heritage Thorold at the time that was being done.
Yeah. Okay, I will try and approach Cheryl Severance again. I will ask again about what she knows about the exchange of the windows and also what she knows about present restoration work going on. And last item on this list is Trinity United Church. I know I was supposed to approach one of the board members again. I haven't done that yet, but I will do it in the next few days and see whether there's anything else we can find out about what they plan for the future of that building. So far, nothing has come to my attention since I was first approached a couple of months ago. Okay. Anything else on these designated buildings that we are working on right now?
No.
No? Okay. Then let's move on to our designation priorities. Part of that was, of course, already touched on by Eva's and Wynn's report. I would also like to mention one more time Sarah's recommendation to look at a future designation of the Beaver Dams DQ Crossroads as an Indigenous heritage landscape. That could be something that could be done fairly easily because it's already a protected park. I don't think the only thing that we should do in that case is, of course, approach the Indigenous community and work together with them on that. But it's something to keep in mind. I think it would be an important asset for the city to have that as a heritage landscape. Other than that, designation priorities, of course, the ones that were pointed out by Eva and Wynn in their report are of particular importance to designate. Now our next step will be to find out which owners would want to support a designation of their property. So how do we go about that? Do I draft a letter that is dropped off? Do we approach them personally? What do you suggest as the best? Yes, Joe.
Through you, Madam Chair. In the past, it's been a letter that we've submitted to the owners. We did have one alongside the upper house that we were working on. That was the Bernie House on Welland Street North.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on the list. Michael something, I think. He did express interest earlier on, and it just seems like it's dropped off the radar. Not too sure why. I think we should reapproach him.
Yeah.
He was at the Pew House or Pew Cottage designation. He was friends with the couple that owned that property. He has worked with John Jupian, so I don't know why he went quiet, but I think we should reapproach him. That one's got the most positive potential. There are a couple on the list that we had approached in the past. The James Beattie House on Pine Street North. We put a history plaque on that property years ago. We did recognize the people for Heritage Day, which is now Family Day in February. We used to have a certificate drawn up and we presented it to a homeowner that had not necessarily just a designated property, but if it was a heritage home that was being well looked after, we reached out to him and we awarded them with a certificate. And we had the owner of the Beattie House at that time at City Hall to present the certificate. He was against designation. He's a lawyer, so he obviously understands and does not like easements on a property. So if we want to approach him again, maybe, I'm not too sure about that one. 112 Carlton North, which is on the light blue, that is Phil Ritchie's wife that's living in there. Now, when Phil was together with his wife, we approached him at the time, and he was dead set against designation. They've separated. He's been away from there for the longest time. She's doing a wonderful job of maintaining that property. It's just phenomenal what she's doing. Maybe she's worth reaching out to. She's certainly got nothing to lose because she's doing exactly what we want. She's had wood siding replaced on it just this past summer. She did a lot of work on it. She had the porch floor replaced on it. You know, I don't know why she wouldn't sort of give it some consideration. So these are two between the Welland Street North House and the Lorriman House. I'd give them first crack at trying to see if we can get them on board.
The Lorriman House, first of all, is a house that is unlike our other designated properties. It's a beautiful property. The only reason why I would maybe approach some of the others first is that I don't really see that house being in any danger at this point. And if we can't get anybody else to designate right now, then absolutely. But Sarah doubled start a downtown block, the Schwaller block, 45 to, I'm not sure whether that's a typo because there's 45 to 50, which doesn't really make sense. But I think it's the big sort of yellowy, ochery, stuccoed building downtown. Is it, yes, Eva?
Yeah, it's the Squire Black House.
That's on Albert.
Yeah.
No,
And
no,
there are plaques. There are currently plaques on those homes, as I understand it.
Yeah.
that's not a home though, that is a block on Front Street. It's
Yeah, Albert Street East.
45 to 50 Front Street South.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at Albert. You're looking at Front Street.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go to my individual photos.
The reason why I'm zeroing in on that is that I just think it would be really advantageous to have a few more properties on Front Street designated. I don't see much chance for most of them, unfortunately. But since Sarah put a double star on that one, I thought maybe she knows something about the owners that they might be, you know, maybe willing to go that direction.
Okay, 46 to 50. Gotcha.
One of those numbers must be wrong. I think it's the block on the east side that has sort of this yellowish ochery stucco on it. Is that possible?
Okay. Here, you know what? I'm going to send this picture. I'm going to try to send it to you. Just give me a moment.
Is that the building next to the old Royal Bank?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Oh, it's on that side. I somehow thought
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, 40 to 50 Front Street.
Yeah.
Okay, copy. Let me just get it in here. No, where's reply to all?
George Cottage, a local businessman, was involved in restoring that facade some years ago. I'm not too sure who the ownership is on that building. We've had a problem with most of them being owned by out-of-town people.
Yeah.
And they've been reluctant to participate in any designation. But because George did the work on that building, he was into real estate too, flipping real estate. So he might have been able to find a local buyer because it's being looked after. It's not being neglected
Yeah, yeah. Why don't
like some of the ones across the street.
Why don't I approach Sarah and ask her why she double-starred that, what she knows about the owners, and why she thought that there might be a bigger chance with that particular building?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, I would just say we find out about all the owners of these buildings, what their feelings are about designation, and then that will narrow down our choices quite a bit already, and then we'll make our choice from that. Yes, Joe?
Sure, Madam Chair. Yeah, I agree. Okay, if we zero in on them, if they're not in favor of designation, then we can always move towards seeing if they would allow a history plaque to be put on their building.
Okay.
At our cost, obviously, because they're not requesting it. But it does start to highlight the history of the downtown section.
Yeah.
In a small way.
Yeah. Obviously, the best thing would be, yes, Eva?
Yeah, going back to the earlier conversation, Madam Chair, about heritage permits and the purpose of a heritage permit to also demonstrate, promote, encourage support of all of the incredible benefits of heritage conservation in our communities. Mm-hmm. I think we need to focus in on that very, very carefully and be able to include that information, if it's an attachment or even embodied within the letter, to give important food for thought to the owners that we are writing to consider this very carefully. Mm-hmm. The City of Toronto has done some, obviously it's a huge municipality. And also the City of Hamilton, they've got some wonderful examples that we can, if we think they are relevant to Thorold, that we can borrow from.
I think we can borrow from anybody, no matter how big they are, if the ideas are good. So I agree.
Good ideas.
Anybody else? Wynn?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would also suggest framing the letter as from like a buy-in perspective as well, because it's one thing to just hammer the point home about why heritage is important, but what are the benefits to you as a homeowner for designating this property? So because that's what we need ultimately, is that buy-in. So trying to figure out how do we get homeowners to buy in, but like what are highlighting the benefits? I think that'll be the best way to get them to be on board.
Yeah.
And yeah, happy to support in drafting that as well.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. I will be taking you up on that.
Okay, I'll take that on.
Great. All right, then that will be our next step, and our first targets will be the properties on these two priority lists. We might as well target them both because the response might be small, and that way we already have hopefully a few more choices that we can then draw from. Yes, Eva?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you to Joe. Joe, you spoke about the Bernie House. Do you have an address for that?
Fernie.
Fernie House.
Yeah.
It's an F.
Bernie, I'm sorry, with an F.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, offhand, I'm not too sure, but I can get it for you.
It's,
Or just the street that it's.
Yeah, Welland Street North.
Oh, in North, yeah.
Gotcha.
it is a huge double lot with an ancient oak tree on it. The owner has also in the past expressed interest in designating the tree.
The tree?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Yeah, and it's white, if I recall, a white stucco with red trim, I think.
yeah, red and green trim, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Mark has a picture of it.
It's a very nice property,
Yeah,
but
it is.
yeah. All right. The Fernie House, since there was interest in both probably one of the reasons, Joe, that fell under the radar is probably COVID, because COVID happened and we just couldn't go on with any designation processes for quite a while. And I think there might have also have been plans of the owners to add a porch somewhere, and they wanted to do that before it's designated so that they could push that through. But there was a definite interest there, and therefore those particular owners should be approached again. Okay. Then can we leave it at that, that when you start a draft on a letter to be sent to owners of prospective properties to be designated, and then we'll approach them ASAP with that and find out what the interest is.
Yep.
Right. Okay, history plaques for designated properties, that will be addressed once we know what our budget will be like at the end of the year, where we can, if there's money left over that we can spend on this. I know we have a few stands left. But there are about 25 of our designated properties that do not have those particular plaques yet. So over the next few years, we would like to get those in the ground. That will be done on a year-to-year basis, depending on how many we can fit into our budget. Any other comments on that at this point? No? Okay. Then the towpath signage and plaquing recognition, we have already talked about that last time. That is something that we should be working towards. It's also part of the important historic corridor of following the first and second Welland Canal. Also ties in very beautifully with the designation we're planning for Canada Day this year. The city has grand plans for future plans for that particular area in terms of revitalization and to have our heritage recognized at the same time in that area is something that we should come back to again and again and address. Yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair. I think once we get the Beaver Dams Park all cleared up, I think that might be Sarah's next assignment, is have her do a research that goes from the hydro building right up to Sullivan.
Okay.
To take in that corridor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of buried artifacts, and it's a stepping stone to a Heritage District conservation area. If we can define the boundary beyond the downtown core.
Yep. Especially if we get the go-ahead on a museum, which would be smack in the middle, so that would be absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Heritage Thorold presentation. At our last meeting, we discussed that I would maybe do a presentation this coming council. I was in Europe much longer than I thought. I talked to Matthew yesterday. I moved the presentation from next Tuesday to the next council meeting on May 30th after watching James Nielsen's excellent and absolutely inspiring report to St. Catharines City Council on April 17th. And what that made me realize was that I didn't just want to hold a speech, but that some PowerPoint presentation would be beneficial to, so that what I say doesn't just go in one ear and out the other, but that councillors can see certain important points in front of them in form of a slideshow when I know what I want to talk about, and I will get all the points ready. But if I could ask your help with getting these PowerPoint slides ready, since I am not particularly adept at that kind of thing, that would be fantastic.
No problem.
Great. Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. Given that, we were informed that a presentation to council is limited to 10 minutes,
Yeah.
Would this be something that we could request a special meeting of council? Because the mayor has indicated in the past that he can call a special meeting of council, and that would allow a full-length presentation to be made. Because 10 minutes is not very much to try to get a point across.
The only thing, I'm not sure whether for something like that, a special meeting can be called. I don't know whether that would be only in terms of making decisions. Do you have any input on that?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, I'm not sure, but we also have to be cognizant of the fact of how long do we want to present to council.
Yeah.
I think the 10-minute time frame is quite significant, believe it or not. If you've watched some of the others who have presented, you can put a lot of information in there, and it's not like we want to cram a lot of information. We want to make sure we have attention and we want to get our message across. So in council meeting itself might be the best format as opposed to an extended presentation. So that's my view on that. Thank you.
I think it's best to stick to certain very obvious points to, especially some of the advantages and benefits of preserving heritage, and particularly the sustainability issue, and on all levels, cultural, economic, and environmental, and I think to make councillors listen, it's actually of advantage to be short and concise and bring arguments that will actually be relevant to them. And when you and I will present my points to you, and I'll be happy for your input. Also, if anybody right now has input that they of issues that they would like me to bring forward, I will obviously do that. But the main thing, I think, is to make councillors listen. So it's more important to find the right points that will resonate with them, rather than speaking for half an hour and losing them halfway through. Yes, Joe?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I understand, what you're trying to say, but if this is we're in a different time period right now, and we've never had a council that's really listened to our heritage presentations in the past. Like Pam's gone in and done talks, and Craig's done the talks, and we've got something different now where we're trying to get council on board, but they have to understand the ramifications of Bill 23 too. So
yeah.
There's a bigger picture here to try to get our council to listen to the importance of what we're trying to do, but be sympathetic to the challenges that we're faced with because of Bill 23. So
Yeah.
I don't know how you really go across and walk away from the meeting and say, I think they got it now. I don't know.
What I'm also a little bit counting on is there will be a question and answer period afterwards. And in the past, very often there weren't any questions from council. Can I maybe appeal to our council rep and ask that once we are doing this presentation in council, that there will be questions asked?
Through you, Madam Chair, well, if I could even go one step further and suggest that you reach out to other councillors. Of course, I'll have questions, but it would be very helpful to us if councillors already are on board and understand what will be presented to them, and perhaps be inspired to also ask further questions.
Okay. All right. Does that sound all right to, yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor O'Hare. So if we're going to be doing a presentation to council, then they're going to have that in their package for the agenda for the night.
Yeah.
So if they've got a copy of that presentation and it's pointed out to them, we want questions, then they're prepared, so to speak, to ask the questions rather than listening to Anna do a presentation and then staring at her like a deer caught in headlights.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understood from Matthew that he would like my presentation on his desk about a week before the council meeting, and I would think that it will then be given to council members to look at before the meeting.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Does that sound okay? All right. Okay, any other comments to that? Does anybody have any particular things that they would like to be in that presentation? I will obviously circulate it with you as well, not just to the city, but I will forward what Win and I will work on to you guys as well.
Okay.
Who? Oh, I will send an email to the committee. Right. Okay, then we also, our last item is municipal cultural planning presentation. That is something that we'll ask Eva to work on, but that is in the future. We'll deal with the heritage presentation first, and then once your workload with the heritage inventory list is a little bit over, then if we could ask you to prepare a presentation to council to adding the cultural pillar to Thorold's official plan, that would be great. I think it would just be something that would be very important to have in our city's bylaws. All right.
Thank you.
But that's not anything urgent for now. But I just think we should keep that on our agenda. I think it would be something that would be extremely important. Okay, any other points with regard to our work plan? No? Then we can go to round table. Joe?
No, I've got nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Eva?
Yes, I do have something to add, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if there is any possibility of receiving the minutes from our meeting earlier than sort of the week before our meeting. would that be a possibility for staff to facilitate?
Sydney?
Through you, Madam Chair, we can look at circulating them before the agenda is posted. However, it usually does take a while, just since there's multiple steps of approval that needs to go out, but we can look at circulating them prior to the agenda.
That would be great, actually. I would appreciate that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Ray?
Just a little note. I'm sorry about not being able to attend because of work commitments. Now that the university is pretty much closed except for some marking I have to do, I will probably miss a meeting or two in the next several months. I will be going in for triple bypass surgery sometime in the next month or month and a half. So, or you just might have a funny picture sitting here for me, as me.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that surgery and hope you'll recover quickly.
And if Timothy could call me at some point, please.
This Timothy.
That one, yes, the good-looking one.
All right. All right. Linda?
No.
Nothing to add?
No,
Win?
no.
Win?
Nothing for me, Madam Chair.
No? Nick, would you like to add something?
Just to say thank you for including me in the committee, and I look forward to being kind of a staff resource. And I've also sat on the Municipal Heritage Committee. I'm currently on the committee for the township where I live, Wilmot Township, just between Kitchener and Stratford. So look forward to bringing the heritage expertise committee experience. So I look forward to working with everybody.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ricardo, would you like to say something?
I just want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of the committee today, and I look forward to our next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. Sydney, would you like to say something?
Nothing for me today, thank
All
you.
right. Okay, then I thank everybody for being here today. I thank also Eva and Win for their amazing work on the heritage list, and Eva for your great report on the tourism issue. I'm sure we'll be in contact via email until our next meeting. And if there's nothing else, then I will close this meeting at 12:12.